The most dangerous truths hide in the quietest places. Not in grand pronouncements or dramatic gestures, but in the small details that almost go unnoticed. The position of a hand, an almost invisible object, a choice so subtle it could pass for accidental. In 1897, a family in Virginia posed before a camera and made one of those choices. They wore their best clothes, behaved with dignity, and placed something in the hands of their youngest daughter that would carry a message for over a sacca. For 127 years, that message waited until a researcher restoring the faded image with modern technology realized what the child was holding and understood that it had never been just a family portrait. If you enjoy untold stories from the past, mysteries hidden in old photographs waiting to be unveiled, subscribe to the channel and click the like button, because what you're about to discover will change the way you see all the old photos you've ignored. Dr. Amara Johnson didn't expect to find anything unusual when she accepted the digitization project from the Virginia Historical Society in February 2024. She specialized in photographic restoration, taking damaged 19th century images and bringing them back to clarity using high-resolution scanning and digital enhancement. Most of her work involved repairing tears, removing stains, and adjusting exposure on portraits that had faded over decades of improper storage. The photograph arrived at her lab in Richmond on a cold Tuesday morning, sealed in archival protective sleeves. The accompanying paperwork was minimal. Family portrait circa 1897, Petersburg, Virginia. Donor, estate of Dorothy Hayes, deceased 2023. No additional information available. Amara removed the photograph carefully and placed it under her examination light. It was a standard studio portrait of a black family of 6 father, mother, and 4 children ranging from perhaps 15 years old down to about 7. They stood on the porch of what appeared to be a modest wooden house, the kind of dwelling common to working families in the late 19th century. Everyone wore their Sunday best. The father in a dark suit with a watch chain, the mother in a high-neck dress with her hair pulled back in a tight bun, the children in carefully pressed clothes that showed signs of having been mended and maintained with care. Nothing remarkable at first. It looked like thousands of other families preserving their likeness for posterity. Amara began the scanning, setting the resolution high to capture every possible detail. The technology could reveal textures and elements invisible to the naked eye. She had used the same process hundreds of times before. The scan took 40 minutes. When it completed, Amara opened the file and began the enhancement process, adjusting contrast and sharpness. She zoomed in on the father's face first, then the mother's, then moved systematically through each of the children. That's when she stopped, the youngest, a girl of about 7 or 8 standing at the front right of the group, held something in her small hands. Amara had missed it entirely in the physical photo. The object was small, roughly circular, made of brass or bronze. Engraved markings on its surface caught her attention immediately. It was a compass, but not just any compass. Amara increased the magnification until the compass filled her screen. The detail was extraordinary. Every scratch, every engraving, every imperfection in metal was visible. The compass was old, far older than the photograph. It showed signs of extensive use over many years. But it was the symbols engraved around the edge that made Amara's breath catch. She had seen these symbols before in her research on the Underground Railroad and lesser-known networks that continued operating even after the Emancipation Proclamation. These networks helped Black Americans escape from areas where violence and exploitation remained common despite the law of slavery. The symbols were directional codes. Each marking corresponded to a specific direction, landmark, or safe house. They formed a portable map encoded in metal for conductors and guides. The compass in the child's hands was a working tool. This meant the family in 1897, 32 years after the Civil War, had been part of something dangerous that still required codes and secrecy. Amara sat back and looked at the full photograph again. The family stared back with serious expressions. But now she saw determination and defiance. This photograph had been posed deliberately. The compass was placed in the child's hands intentionally. Someone wanted this moment recorded and preserved. But why give such a dangerous object to the youngest member for the picture? Amara pulled up the donor information again. Dorothy Hayes, deceased 2023. She called her colleague at the Virginia Historical Society and asked for everything they could find about Dorothy Hayes and the family in the photo. Within 3 days, Amara had assembled a small team. Dr. Marcus Webb, a historian specializing in post-Reconstruction Virginia, and Lauren Chen, a genealogist with expertise in tracing Black American family lines, joined her. Marcus examined the enhanced photograph and explained the historical context. In the 1890s, systematic efforts were underway to strip Black citizens of voting rights through poll taxes, literacy tests, and violence. Lynchings were common. Black property owners faced constant threats. Lauren searched records and identified the family as the Garretts. Joseph Garrett, age 42 in 1897, worked as a carpenter. His wife Dina, age 38, took in laundry. Their children were Samuel, 15, Ruth, 12, Esther, 9, and Clara, 7, the girl holding the compass. Joseph had purchased land in 1889 with cash, which was a large sum for a Black carpenter at that time. Church records showed donations to a Travelers Aid Fund, which was code for helping people escape. He later bought a barn suitable for storage. All signs pointed to the Garrett house being a safe house on a post-war underground route. Over the following weeks, the team uncovered a pattern. They mapped what Marcus called the Invisible Railroad, a network of safe houses and guides that operated long after most people thought such networks had ended. These routes moved people from areas of extreme danger to places of relative safety, from rural plantations to cities where they might find better opportunities. Amara sent detailed photographs of the compass to Dr. Helen Washington, a historian at Howard University. Helen confirmed the symbols matched a coding system used by the lantern bearers, a loosely connected network of families who maintained safe routes in the 1890s and early 1900s. They operated in complete secrecy with no written records, using symbols carved on trees, drawn in dirt, or engraved on objects like this compass. Lauren found an oral history recording of Clara, narrate from 1979. In the tape, Clara described walking at night with her father, carrying the compass, and helping people who had walked for days to escape bad conditions. She remembered the codes used through churches and how her father taught her to read the symbols on the compass before she could read words. Clara also recalled the day the photograph was taken. It was the summer of 1897. Her mother prepared their clothes for days. The photographer came to the house. Her father told her to hold the compass clearly. It was the day before his most dangerous mission, guiding 12 people from a plantation in North Carolina to safety in Richmond. He wanted the photo as a record and proof of their work, so the promise to help others could continue. The family succeeded. Joseph returned safely. Clara kept the compass for many years and later gave it to her daughter Dorothy. Dorothy's daughter Joyce still had the compass in a small wooden box. When Joyce brought it to Richmond and matched the one in the 1897 photograph exactly. In September 2024, the photograph was formally added to the Virginia Museum of History and Culture's collection. It was displayed alongside the original compass. The exhibition, focused on post-war resistance networks, drew more than 300 people on opening day. Descendants of the Garrett family came from across the country. They gathered around the image, learning stories that had been hidden for generations. Marcus gave a presentation on the historical context. Helen spoke about the coding system and the courage required. Amara described the restoration process and the moment she first noticed the compass. But it was Joyce who gave the final speech. She stood before the photograph of her great-great-grandparents and said that for most of her life, she did not know this story. She did not know her ancestors had been conductors who risked everything to help others find freedom. She looked at the little girl holding the compass and felt in deep pride. That little girl couldn't have imagined that 127 years later her photograph would be in a museum, Joyce said. Researchers would decode the symbols, and people from all over would come to learn about what her family did. But I think she would be glad. The whole reason they made that photograph was to create a record so that someday, when it was safe, the truth could be told. Joyce touched the glass case. The promise my great-great-grandfather made to help people find freedom has been kept. Now we all carry the light. Now we all know the way. This single quiet family portrait from 1897 turned out to be so much more than a simple picture. It was a brave message of resistance and hope that waited patiently for more than a century, until modern technology and dedicated researchers finally brought its powerful story into the light. The Garrett family's courage, the secret compass, the hidden network, all of it reminds us that history is full of quiet heroes whose stories deserve to be remembered and shared. The discovery shows how one small detail in an old photo can open an entire world of forgotten history. It teaches us to look closer at the past because the most important truths often hide in plain sight, waiting for the right moment and the right eyes to see them clearly. And now, thanks to Amara, her team, and the descendants who preserved the compass, this powerful story can be told and remembered for many generations to come.